First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, appreciate you joining us. We are live streaming on our website and our apps. Great time to download the Fox 12 Oregon app, but we are also on Facebook and YouTube, so appreciate wherever it is that you are joining this show. We start every weekday at 1 p.m. Pacific, and we cover a wide range of topics on here, but this is something that everybody's going to have an opinion on, and that's what we're going to be discussing is how do you feel about the economy? In part, we've got more that we go even deeper than that, but this is based on a survey and polling that DHM Research sent out asking Oregonians about this. And to talk all about that, we have the expert himself, John Horvick, joining us. John, always good to have you here on the show to talk about all these important things that you go through, but it's always so data-driven and just finding out what people are actually thinking. And I think to start off, can you tell us, about this one?
Sure. Well, we regularly check in with Oregonians about how they're feeling about a number of issues, importantly about how they're feeling about the economy, how they're feeling about their personal financial situations. And we do that regularly anyway, but we were particularly interested right now because the macroeconomic conditions, we've seen some improvements. Unemployment continues to stay low. There's been lots of hiring. Inflation has been coming down. The stock market has been rallying. There's been a lot of signs that the economy is improving, strengthening, maybe even in a good position. But we asked Oregonians over the last couple of years, we look at national survey data. Oregonians, Americans have been pretty sour about things. And at the same time, we see these huge partisan differences where Democrats are saying one thing, Republicans are saying another thing. And if we look back during Trump's administration or Obama's administration before that, we see these big switches in terms of how people are rating the economy. So we wanted to check in to see how people were doing. And we wanted to compare how people were rating the economy versus how they said they were doing personally. And what we found were some really big differences between the two.
And that's why this is always interesting to see where that is and where everything meets up. Because as you mentioned, before, this is a wide-ranging survey that you put out. But this, to clarify for everybody who's watching too, this isn't one specific demographic group. You cover a wide range of people.
Yeah, this is a survey of Oregonians, young and old, urban, rural, those with less education, those with more, high income, low income, Democrats, Republicans, representative of Oregonians in the state, you bet.
Yeah, so covering the whole gamut. So finding out about how they feel is fascinating. So yeah, let's launch right into it if you want to.
Sure. So, we asked the question, how would you rate Oregon's current economic conditions? And, it's pretty negative. So just about 38% of Oregonians say that current conditions are good. Or said another way, a majority, 54% say that things are bad. I mean, some people are unsure, but more people say that things are bad and then say that things are good. And again, they're saying that at a time when there are other measures that suggest that the economy has improved or maybe even good shape. Again, that unemployment rate, the inflation coming down, the stock market is high. We've seen, high number of business starts, but still people pretty negative. There are important differences. One, as I mentioned, is about partisanship. Democrats, a majority of Democrats, 55%, say that the state's economic conditions are good. Republicans, it's just 22%. So a really, really big gap between those two. It's possible Democrats and Republicans are experiencing different things about the economy. It's also likely that each side has its reasons that aren't economic, partisan reasons for saying that things are good or bad. I also should say there's really big differences by education. Among those with a college degree, 62% say that the economic conditions are good. Those with a high school degree or less, it's just 19%.
Wow.
So there are partisan differences, but there's really tremendous gaps too by education. So that's how people are thinking about the economy. Most people saying it's bad, and some of these big differences, particularly by party, particularly by education.
Is that a somewhat common result that you've found? I mean, you mentioned that you've done these for so long
Yeah.
that it tends to be that way.
It is. And so during from like 2017 to 2021, when President Trump was in office, Republicans were saying about 80% of Republicans were saying that the economy was in good shape. Now that's nationally, that's not Oregon. Those are national numbers. And then it just flips. It flipped right away in 2021. Now, obviously, things were happening. Then we had COVID. There were big things were happening, but the immediate and drastic shift between partisanship is really, really clear in the data. The same thing happened when we in previous sort of changes to administration. I say this because it's important to understand how people are thinking about the economy, but I also say this because we're inundated with public opinion data about what voters think about economic conditions and how that might play out in the election.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
so much of what we're measuring is partisanship.
Yeah.
It's not about the economy, it's about partisanship. Um, and that's why we also want to ask how people are doing personally, not just about the economy.
Not just outlooks on what they feel, the entire economy is. And I know, we're live streaming right now. I'm sure there's a lot of opinions that people have, that they're putting in there. Feel free to put those in. Be nice, but put your opinions in. But when it comes down to that, I think that is interesting, just through those lens of politics, looking at something larger like the economy. So when you get into the personal side of thing, that's where I would feel like we may get some more information from that.
Right. So when we ask how would you rate your personal financial situation, a majority, 56% of Oregonians say they're doing good. Their finances are in good shape. Now, I would love that 56% number to be 60, 70, 75%. But it is a majority of Oregonians who say that they're doing well personally, even though, less than half say that the economic conditions are in the state are good. And here is really why this partisanship really matters, at least as I think about things. So remember, there was about this 30 plus percentage point difference between Democrats and Republicans on how they rated the economy. But there's only about a 8-ish percentage point difference between Democrats and Republicans on how they rate their personal financial situation. In fact, 58% of Republicans say that they're doing well personally. So a clear majority of Republicans say that they're doing well. Hey, if you ask me how I'm doing well. Ask me how about the economy is doing, it's really poor. And then it helps us understand, I think, more in greater detail how people are experiencing the world when we see these differences, how they're doing personally, but versus how they rate the state.
Yeah, that it really does. It really does say a lot, I think. And I also find that interesting that in the previous 4 years it was kind of the same thing as far as reversed on that, putting that partisanship on it, but on a personal level. I'm kind of surprised by that. So 56%, think that they're doing okay personally.
Yeah, they're doing okay personally, and we track the Oregon economic conditions more regularly than personal economic conditions. I don't have as good as benchmark for personal. We do see the Oregon economic conditions; they're still not good, but they did improve a little bit in people's ratings this month compared to the fall of 2023. We'll continue to track these personal ratings going forward to see if they improve or decline. But I think when people are looking at economic ratings and sort of thinking about how that might play into the election, my guess is between now and November, we're going to see very little movement among Republicans. That's
Yeah.
my best guess. And if there's improvement in ratings, it's really going to come from Democrats. And everybody can judge for themselves who might be right in those ratings. But my guess is we'll see some assuming conditions continue to improve or stay stable to where they are now, we'll see Democrats sort of come home on that question and Republicans not.
Right. And then, after November 2024, see how everybody feels, depending on
Yes,
what
things
happens.
Yes, I wouldn't. If there's a change in administrations, I wouldn't be surprised if things flipped on a dime like they have in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, for those of you just joining us, so we're taking a look at this is data. These are opinions across all demographics. And as John said at the very beginning, Republican, Democrat, Independent, you name it. Everybody's covered in this, but this is as a whole what we're looking at. Any other key findings that you want to go through on here?
Yeah. I would- Media, policymakers,
Yeah.
politicians, they tend to be folks who are people with a college degree, people who make higher levels of income, people who tend to be a little bit older. And all those groups tell us that they are doing much better financially than people who have lower incomes with less education and who are younger. And so part of I think when we think about who's making decisions, who's telling stories about the economy, those people tend to feel more positive. Just to give you some numbers, this is
Yeah.
this is how we're rating their personal financial situations. Among college graduates, 81% say that they're doing well personally. It's half that for those who have less than a college degree. If you look at those with people with incomes above $100,000 per year, 86% say that they're doing well personally, compared to just 27% of those who are making less than $50,000 a year. And see big differences. Those who are 65 plus feel the most positive about their finances, compared to those who are younger feel worse about their finances. So there's also part of like who's telling stories, who's making decisions.
Right.
Um, those are the people who are feeling uh, most confident about how they're doing.
I think, I mean, the 100,000 plus, I guess that makes sense, that if I were to look at this and just see those numbers that, that they feel okay financially. But yeah, looking at the 65 and older, I mean, it's just really interesting and telling, I feel like, telling that story of where people are at and where their opinions are.
Yeah, and we really saw that throughout, especially during the pandemic, where young people were telling us, "Man, I'm really, really stressed about how I'm doing," and more security among those who are older, and that persisted.
And so yeah, so that's continuing to be kind of what those benchmarks were that you had before. Um, yeah, I think it's and one question too I just had really quick is so when was this polling taking place?
Sure. This was the last week of December, so these
Last.
data now a few weeks old, but still quite fresh. If we
Yeah,
and if we it is important because we do look nationally, we are seeing public opinion data trend. It's still negative, but trending more positive about the economy, especially among Democrats.
gotcha. So that's a little bit of a comparison there. Well, John, anything else that you think people should know about this data, and anything else that you want to share with this? I don't want to take up your time, but I think this is really interesting going through a lot of this stuff.
Uh, I, there's going to be a competition this next year among the candidates for office, from president on down, trying to define what the economy is. And I think looking at it from both sides is going to be important. Those who want to tell a negative story about things are going to talk about the economy at large. Those who want to tell a more positive story are going to ask people how they're feeling personally. And both are meaningful. Both tell us something important. But both they're telling us something different right now. And when you listen to people talk about these issues, um, listen to much part of the story they're telling.
Yeah, yeah, and again, just to talking about the data, and what this is out there, I think that is a really important thing is looking at through different lenses as far as when people are talking about the economy, because this is just really showing so much here, looking at this data, and how people view things, and that's why this is so important. What you do is getting these opinions and getting this from across the board to see what these trends are. And maybe somebody watching, or even all of us individually, can stop and think for a second, like, well, how am I really looking at this? There's a lot of ways to look at that.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, I'm trying to dance around that, but I mean, we all know we all know what it is. So it's just looking at data points and just how you feel about that. And obviously this year is going to be huge. So I mean, finding out about how people feel is going to be so important, and which is what you do so well.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, historically, economy and presidential election results correlate pretty highly, and so this is going to be a key driver.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, John, thank you very much for joining me. Let's tell everybody though where they can go and take a look at all this data and these results that you have.
Sure, you can go to dhmresearch.com. You'll find a page there called Insights, and we'll have the results for this and lots of other survey work that we do as well. And we'll have more coming out in the coming weeks.
Fantastic. Hope to have you back on to talk about those as well. So, John, thank you. Always so great to have you on here.
Thank you.
And for everybody watching too, seriously, we've done several segments here with John and DHM Research talking about their surveys, their polling, all the data that they gather. It's really, really interesting to take a look at how Oregonians, or sometimes even throughout the Northwest, how people feel about different issues. So there are a lot of great ones to take a look at, and just see where the state is, where people are feeling about things. And this one was about the economy. So thank you very much to John for joining us, and thank you to all of you for being a part of the show. So this is Fox 12 Now. We start live streaming here every weekday at 1 p.m. Pacific. We cover a wide range of topics every day. So I encourage you to check out some of our previous segments. Coming up at 1:30 p.m., we're going to be playing a package that I put together, which is a visit out to the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to talk about their new K9 unit, which is designed to detect electronic storage devices. So I spoke to Sergeant McLaughlin and his dog Yukon, his K9 Yukon. Didn't talk to Yukon, but I threw the ball for Yukon. But we did see a demonstration of that, so we're going to be discussing that coming up at 2 p.m. We've got the Fox 12 Weather Podcast, so lots of stuff happening, and if there's breaking news, I'll be here as well. But we're going to sign off for right now. We'll regroup. We'll be back at 1:30. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.